get ready because we're about to deep dive into Cobra Kai. Yeah, we're going all in, all 6 meetings. From Daniel and Johnny's rivalry, the one that never really ended, to some pretty crazy twists and turns the show throws at you.
It's really kind of wild how this show can pick up, like, decades after that original Karate Kid movie, you know what I mean? And, like, make it feel fresh, It's like we're not just rehashing the same old stuff. We're seeing how the past can, like, really mess with people even years later.
It's true. Okay, so picture this. 1984, the All-Valley Karate Tournament.
Yeah.
Daniel does that crane kick, right? Gets the win against Johnny.
Iconic.
But then we fast forward, 30 years? And their lives, well, let's just say things haven't exactly gone as planned. Johnny's basically hit rock bottom. And Daniel, I mean, he seems successful, on the surface, but they're both carrying a lot of baggage from their past.
It's interesting how the show sets up this kind of parallel, right? Daniel's successful, sure, like you said, but he's still searching for that balance, that purpose, like what Mr. Miyagi taught him. And Johnny, well, Johnny's still clinging to those Cobra Kai ideals, that whole no mercy thing, even though it's kind of clear that hasn't really worked out for him.
And then you've got Miguel.
Right.
He's this kid who's getting bullied, right? And he becomes Johnny's first student. The reason Johnny even reopens Cobra Kai, it's like this whole chain of events gets set in motion.
Yeah.
This chance encounter that reignites the rivalry, and then bam, you've got a new generation heading straight for a showdown.
It's crazy how the students, like, become these reflections of their senseis. They pick up on the good and the bad. You see Miguel and his friends. They start getting more aggressive, that whole Cobra Kai mentality. And then there's Robbie.
Johnny's son.
Right? Johnny's son, who ends up training with Daniel.
Learning Miyagi-Do.
Exactly. And it creates this whole web of relationships and rivalries that you just can't look away from.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. So the rivalry between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, well, it starts to get pretty intense. Yeah. And we start to see the flaws in both philosophies. Like Johnny, he starts to realize that no mercy thing, it's turning his students into bullies.
Yeah.
And then you've got Daniel, who's, really devoted to Miyagi-Do, but it sometimes feels a little too, rigid.
Inflexible.
Yeah.
It's like the show's saying there's not just one right way to do things, you know what I mean? It makes you think about all the gray areas.
Exactly. Okay, but then, season 2, boom, John Kreese comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny's old sensei from Karate Kid.
Now things are getting serious.
Talk about a blast from the past.
Kreese is like the dark side of Cobra Kai, right? He's all about winning no matter what. And his arrival, well, it not only makes the rivalry even worse, but it forces Johnny to face some things he's been trying to avoid.
Like all those demons from his past?
Exactly.
Season 2 is almost like someone's holding a mirror up to Johnny. He sees his students becoming the bullies he used to be, and he has to question everything he thought he knew about, strength and all that.
And that's where we start to see Johnny's character really evolve, right? He begins to understand that real strength isn't about just being aggressive. It's about discipline and taking responsibility for your actions.
But even though Johnny's trying to change, Kreese is still manipulating everything behind the scenes.
Pulling the strings.
And it ultimately leads to, Miguel getting seriously hurt at the end of season 2.
Yeah, that was rough. It was like a punch to the gut, And it really sets the stage for a total shakeup in season 3.
For sure. Johnny blames himself for what happened to Miguel. His dojo's a mess, and Kreese is like taking over Cobra Kai. And that's when something totally unexpected happens.
What's that?
Daniel reaches out to Johnny. He wants to help take down Kreese and get Cobra Kai back.
Wow. It's crazy to see these two, putting their differences aside to fight a common enemy.
I know, right?
Before we jump into all that, I came across this interesting summary by Kenneth Chisholm. He's a Cobra Kai expert. And he points out that the show, at its core, is about this cyclical conflict, Daniel versus Johnny, Cobra Kai versus Miyagi-Do. And all this is happening, against the backdrop of the original Karate Kid movies, which makes things even more complicated and kind of nostalgic.
Right. But, they're stuck in this loop.
Right.
Even as adults, they can't seem to break free from, what happened all those years ago.
Exactly. And as we head into season 4, that conflict, it explodes.
It's all-out war.
Yeah.
Johnny and Daniel team up, right? And they bring their students together, Miyagi-Do and Johnny's new dojo, Eagle Fang.
Right.
And they're taking on Kreese and Cobra Kai.
The stakes are higher than ever. It's like a battle for the soul of the valley, But to make things even more intense, Kreese brings in his secret weapon, Terry Silver.
Oh, from Karate Kid the Third?
That's the one.
That changes everything.
He's even more ruthless than Kreese. and he wants revenge on Daniel. Things are about to get really wild.
So far, what's been your take on the show? What stood out to you?
I gotta say, the way it manages to appeal to, like, both the hardcore Karate Kid fans and people like me who are newer to the story, you know?
Yeah.
It's got all that nostalgia, all those little nods to the original movies.
The Easter eggs.
Yeah, exactly. But it also works as a standalone story.
Yeah.
Like, it's about rivalry, yeah, but it's also about redemption and second chances, which is something everyone can relate to.
I agree. And the fight scenes. Amazing.
Oh, they're incredible, right?
The choreography is so well done. It's like, you know, they're blending all these different styles, and you can feel the emotion behind every move.
It's not just about the action, though, right?
Yo, definitely not.
This show really dives into these characters, shows that they're not just, you know, good guys or bad guys. They're complex.
You make mistakes.
They struggle with stuff.
They evolve, you know.
And that's what makes them so relatable. You can see yourself in these characters, you know, even if you've never done karate in your life.
And speaking of evolving, Season 5 is a roller coaster. It premiered earlier than usual, which kind of threw people off.
It did.
And there's this feeling that we're getting close to the end.
Yeah, I can see that.
There's a finality to some of the storylines, like Terry Silver, he takes over Cobra Kai completely. Then there's all the fallout from the All Valley tournament, especially for Tori and Sam.
Right.
And Kreese ends up in jail. It feels like things are coming to a head.
It does, doesn't it?
But even with that sense of closure, the writers still manage to, like, you know, leave us hanging.
They're good at that.
They leave these unresolved conflicts, these questions.
They always keep you guessing. So, ready for Season 6?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we left off with Season 5, and things were definitely feeling intense. But Season 6, Part 1, well, it kind of throws a curveball.
It does. It feels different.
How so?
There's no, like, you know, clear bad guy right away. It's more about what's going on with the characters, you know? Like, their struggles, their growth.
It's interesting how they managed to keep that tension, that intrigue going, even without a big baddie running around.
Right.
We see the characters dealing with their past, with their relationships, with who they are. It's like the calm before the storm, you know?
And then there's the Seikai Taikai tournament. That's the big goal for all the dojos.
This international karate competition.
Yeah, and it adds a whole new layer of excitement, right?
Definitely.
But it also forces the characters to, you know, really confront their limits, what they want to achieve.
Like the Seikai Taikai is a symbol for their journeys.
Right.
Right? Like they're not just fighting for a trophy. They're fighting to prove something to themselves, to overcome their demons, to find their place in the world.
Exactly. And then bam, Season 6, Part 2, things get crazy.
Oh, yeah. It's action-packed. There's a lot of drama.
Yeah.
And the characters go through some intense stuff. But it also got some mixed reviews, which is kind of interesting.
It did.
Some viewers, they loved the Seikai Taikai. It was high stakes, a lot of action, and the Robbie and Tori storyline. People were hooked on that. They felt like the show really delivered on the drama and the spectacle.
Right, but others felt like some characters kind of went backwards, you know? Like they fell back into old habits.
Right, right.
And there were complaints about the pacing, some things felt rushed, and some people were disappointed with the final fight.
Yeah, I can see that. It seems like they tried to cram a lot into this last season, which might have left some viewers feeling a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, maybe.
But even with the mixed reviews, you can't deny that Cobra Kai made a huge impact.
Oh, absolutely.
It brought back this beloved franchise, introduced karate to a whole new generation, and gave us some really memorable moments.
For sure.
And it started conversations about some important stuff. Rivalry, redemption, mentorship, finding balance. These are themes that resonate with everyone, regardless of age, which is probably why it's so popular.
I agree. Before we move on to the legacy of Cobra Kai, like its impact on pop culture, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. You know, how the show subverts expectations.
Yeah.
Take Johnny Lawrence. He starts out as this classic bad guy, right? A bully who can't let go of the past. But as the show goes on, we see another side to him.
It's amazing how they make him human,
right,
you know, without excusing his flaws.
Right.
He's still got that rough edge, but there's also this vulnerability. He wants to redeem himself, which makes him so relatable. And his relationship with Miguel, that's a perfect example of that.
They have a real bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He becomes this mentor, a father figure to Miguel. And Miguel, he's also looking for his place in the world, you know.
It's so genuine, that relationship.
Even though it's not always perfect, right? It shows the power of mentorship, how it can change both people involved.
And then there's Daniel and Robbie.
Yeah.
It's like history repeating itself, but with a twist.
Right. Robbie, Johnny's son, ends up training with Daniel, learning Miyagi-Do. It creates this whole layer of tension, these unexpected connections. They're both trying to fix the mistakes of the past, but their paths keep colliding.
Robbie's journey is like this battle for his soul.
It is, isn't it? And a lot of the characters in Cobra Kai face that same battle in different ways.
They're trying to figure out who they are, where they belong, what they want to leave behind.
And speaking of the past, those cameos from the original Karate Kid movies were amazing, weren't they?
Oh, they were so good.
Seeing Chosen, Kumiko, even Allie Mills interacting with Daniel and Johnny, it's like, wow.
It adds so much depth and nostalgia, you know.
It's not just fan service, though. Their appearances really matter. They remind us of what shaped these characters, the choices they made that led them to where they are now.
It's brilliant how they weave the past and present together, showing how our actions can have these ripple effects that last for years.
And the fight choreography, I mean, it's incredible.
Oh, yeah. The fight scenes are amazing. It's not just mindless brawling, you know?
Not at all.
It's like each move has a purpose and emotion behind it. You can feel the characters' anger, their frustration, their determination.
They're like dances, these fights. And the way they blend the different styles, it's so well done.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the fights are metaphors for what's happening inside the characters. You know?
Exactly. Their struggles with their identity, with right and wrong, with revenge, forgiveness. It all comes out in those fights.
Like, think about that fight between Miguel and Robbie at the end of season 2.
Oh, man.
It's so heartbreaking because it's not just about two teenagers fighting. It's about these two philosophies clashing, these two different ways of looking at life.
And that's what makes Cobra Kai more than just an action show.
Right.
It makes you think about the consequences of your choices.
Yeah.
How they affect other people.
No, we got to talk about some of the more controversial parts of the show. Like, some people criticize the violence, especially among the teenagers. They feel like it glorifies aggression and doesn't really show the consequences.
It's a valid point. And the writers definitely walk a fine line there.
They do.
They show how appealing power can be, that adrenaline rush of a fight, but they also show the pain, the trauma.
The lasting impact.
Exactly. They don't shy away from the dark stuff, but they also show that it's possible to break free from those cycles of violence.
There's hope.
Yeah. Another thing some viewers have a problem with is the romance, you know, all the love triangles and teenage drama. Some feel like it's too much and takes away from the more serious stuff.
I get that. They definitely play into those tropes sometimes.
You do.
But I think even the messy relationships serve a purpose. They show how complicated adolescence is, all the challenges of friendships, love, heartbreak.
It's like the show saying, look, life's messy. You're going to make mistakes, but that's all part of it.
Exactly. So as we head into the final part of our deep dive, I want to ask you, the listener, a question. Throughout Cobra Kai, we've seen these characters dealing with their pasts, trying to make things right, searching for redemption. But is true redemption even possible? Can you ever really escape the consequences of what you've done? Or are those scars always a part of you?
That's a deep question. It really gets to the heart of what this show's all about, you know, the struggle between who we are and who we want to be.
Yeah. It's something to think about as we explore the legacy of Cobra Kai and its lasting impact on pop culture.
So we've talked about the characters, the rivalries, all the action, even the stuff that sparks some debate. Now let's zoom out a bit and look at the big picture, the legacy of Cobra Kai. What makes it such a, a pop culture phenomenon?
It's crazy how this show, I mean, it started on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like this global hit. People all over the world love it.
For sure.
It brought back the Karate Kid for those of us who grew up with it.
Right.
But it also introduced the story to a whole new audience.
And it goes beyond just nostalgia. Right?
Yeah.
It's about these universal themes that everyone can connect with. Identity, mentorship, redemption. That feeling of trying to find some balance in a world that's, kind of chaotic.
And the way they handle redemption is, like, really powerful. You see Johnny, even Kreese, they're trying to deal with the consequences of their actions, trying to make things right.
It's not easy, though, is it?
No, not at all.
It's a reminder that it's never too late to change.
That's true.
But you got to own up to your mistakes, put in the work. And sometimes the hardest part is forgiving yourself.
Mentorship is another big theme in Cobra Kai.
For sure. It shows how much one person can influence another's life.
Like the relationship between Daniel and Robbie, Johnny and Miguel.
Even Kreese and Tori.
These mentorships, even when they're complicated, they really shape who these characters become.
It's a reminder that we all need guidance, support, especially when we're going through those, those tough times.
And sometimes the people who step up as mentors, well, they're not always who you'd expect. Right.
Another theme that keeps coming up is this search for balance. The characters are always trying to find that middle ground, between tradition and the modern world.
Between aggression and restraint.
Revenge and forgiveness.
They're constantly being pulled in different directions.
It's like that in real life too, right?
Absolutely. We're all trying to juggle relationships, make tough decisions, find our place without losing ourselves.
And Cobra Kai shows us that there's not one right answer, no easy solution.
Nope. It's a journey, a process of figuring things out as you go.
And sometimes that journey means challenging what you believe, stepping outside your comfort zone.
Being open to new ideas.
And one of the things that keeps me coming back to Cobra Kai, it's unpredictable.
Oh, yeah.
Just when you think you know what's going to happen, they throw a curveball.
The writers are good at that.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat.
And they're always flipping things around, like who's the hero, who's the villain. It's not always black and white.
It makes you think, keeps things interesting. And the show's impact on pop culture, I mean, come on.
Oh, it's huge.
Those catchphrases like quiet and strike first, strike hard, no mercy, everyone knows them.
They're everywhere.
Memes, merchandise, you name it.
And the soundtrack. Classic rock, 80s hits, it's perfect.
Takes you right back.
And those training montages, epic.
Cobra Kai has gotten people talking about martial arts, mentorship, the challenges growing up, and it sparked a whole new interest in karate.
People of all ages are getting into it.
It's inspiring. And beyond the physical stuff, the show tackles some important issues,
Bullying, toxic masculinity.
Finding healthy ways to deal with anger.
It gets people thinking critically, challenging the way things are.
So as we wrap things up here, let's take a moment to appreciate what Cobra Kai has accomplished. It's not just a reboot or a nostalgia trip.
No.
It's a story about being human.
About those timeless struggles that we all face.
Cobra Kai entertains us, yeah?
Yeah.
But it also makes us think, challenges us. And it inspires us to, to strive for balance, to grow, to try to be better.
To find redemption.
Exactly. Yeah. It reminds us that we all have the potential for both good and bad. We can be the hero or the villain in our own story.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Cobra Kai.
We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, remember, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. But hey, maybe balance that out with a little bit of mercy in your own life, all right?